Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and we are starting off our first section of this course, which is cloud concepts. And the first thing we need to know is what is cloud computing? So if we were to open up the dictionary, it would define cloud computing as the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or a personal computer. So generally when we're talking about a local server or a personal computer, for larger companies, it's called on-premise. On-premise could mean you own your own data center. On-premise could mean that you have your own rack of servers in your office, or on-premise could just mean a closet in your house, okay? So with on-prem, or on-premise, you own the servers, you hire the IT people, you pay the rent or real estate, and you take all the risk. But with using the cloud, someone else owns the servers, someone else hires the IT people, someone else pays or rents the real estate, and all you're left to do is with the responsibility of configuring your cloud services and code, and everything else is taken care of by the cloud provider. So it sounds pretty good to start with. So to really understand cloud computing, let's look at the evolution of servers to see how we got to cloud. So if we go back to the 90s, if you wanted a server, you'd have to get a dedicated server. And what that means is you'd have to go out, buy a physical machine or all the components for it, assemble that machine, hire the IT staff, install the operating system, and it was really designed only to run a single web app or website. And so this was very expensive. It was very high maintenance. So if you wanted to run a web app, you had to have a lot of money. So it wasn't accessible to everybody. And then as time progressed, we figured out how to virtualize servers. That means we were able to place a virtual machine within a machine. So you'd still buy a physical server, but we had this other layer where we could actually run 4 websites or web apps on a single machine as opposed to buying 4 machines. So the machine was better utilized, and so that was a great advantage in server technology. Then came along shared hosting, so maybe the early 2000s. And the idea is that you had this one physical machine, but instead of you having to buy that machine yourself, which was really expensive, you could share the cost with hundreds of other businesses. And the way you were isolated from other businesses is that you wouldn't be necessarily in your own virtual machine, but you'd have your own account on that machine. And so you're really relying on other tenants, so clients, underutilizing the resources. The only disadvantage of shared hosting is that if you have a particular client who overuses the machine, everybody suffers because that person is overusing the resources. But generally, most of the time, it's very cheap, but there are some serious limitations. And then along came cloud. And so what cloud did was, instead of using a single machine, you're able to use multiple physical machines that act as one system. So the system's abstracted away, and we just called them cloud services. And so the advantage here is that you get that virtual isolation, which you have with virtual machines, but you also get to save a lot of money because you're sharing the cost with a lot of other people, and you get all these other advantages. So with cloud hosting, it's flexible, scalable, secure, cost-effective, and highly configurable. If this isn't clear right now, it will be later on, because I'm definitely going to really make the differences very clear here. And all these models are still used. So people still use dedicated servers, virtual private servers, shared hosting, and cloud hosting. It's just based on your use case, but there's a lot we can do with cloud.